Welcome to Ghouls Night Out with your hostesses, Brandee and Jodi.
Hello, beautiful ghouls. Welcome. This is Brandee. I'm here with my sister, Jodi.
Hello.
Wanted to say something. The people next door are doing construction type things. So if you hear a saw or banging, that's what it is. Anyway, so I have some, like, the dumbest people these people have ever met.
Okay.
It starts with, so a Redditor commented, and for the sake of these people, these are going to be known as Kevins.
Okay.
Okay, so here's a list of events that made it abundantly clear that God exists and he's laughing uncontrollably. Kevin frequently forgot when/where class was. On more than one occasion, had to retrieve him from other classrooms.
Oh my God.
Kevin ate an entire 24-pack of crayons, puked, and then did it again the next day. He's in 9th grade. I have no idea where he got crayons. Kevin's dad wrote tuition checks and mailed them to me, his English teacher. This was a public school. When I gave it back to Kevin, voided to give back to his dad with a brief note explaining that this is a public school, Kevin got in trouble for trying to spend it at 7-Eleven.
It sounds like it's a whole family of Kevins.
Yep. Kevin was removed from the culinary arts program after leaving a cutting board on a gas stove and starting a fire twice. Kevin threw his lunch at the school resource officer and tried to run away. He ran into a door, then insisted it wasn't him. Kevin stole my phone during class. I called it. It rang. He denied that it was ringing. Not that it wasn't his. Not that he did it. No, he denied that the phone was actually ringing. He tried it 3 more times before the end of the year.
Oh my God. Wow.
Kevin kept a bottle of orange Kool-Aid in his backpack for about 4 months. He thought it would turn into alcohol. He drank it during homeroom and threw up. Kevin regularly tried to cheat on assignments by knocking the pile over, grabbing one before I had picked them all up, then writing his name on it wherever there was room.
Oh my gosh, is this true?
I don't know. And then the last one of this guy, Kevin didn't know dogs and cats were different animals.
Oh. That...
Wow.
I don't know. That's a level of... Okay, just move on.
Okay. These are different people.
Good.
This one cracked me up. Okay, he was a 26-year-old male, turned up an... Oh, wait. This is the story of how a Kevin got fired on day 1. He was a 26-year-old male, turned up an hour and a half late on his first day. It was a small roadside cafe/eatery, so I thought I'd get him started on small duties to ease him into the way of the place. I asked him to put new toilet paper in the toilets. A minute or so later, I hear him yelling, "It won't fit on the toilet paper roll." I'm like, what? It's a pretty simple thing. He calls out again, so I tell him to bring it to me so I can show him. And he comes in carrying a roll of paper towels.
Oh my God.
It's almost 3 times the length of the toilet paper holder. That cracked me up.
What the fuck? Who doesn't know what fucking paper towels are?
Well, I mean, these people are pretty fucking stupid, so.
Oh my gosh.
Story of the Kevin who had heard about this super dangerous town. My sister turned 21 today, so I have been mulling over some of her more extreme Kevin moments while writing a speech for her party. This is one of my favorites. About 3 years ago, my brother was about to move to New York. We live in Western Australia. My sister came up to him with a grave look on her face and asked if he was going to gunpoint. He was confused and asked her to clarify. She said that she didn't think he should go there. My brother asked her if she thought gunpoint was an actual place. She responded that she thought it was a place in New York City and it didn't sound very safe because people were always being held up at gunpoint.
Oh my God.
Don't go to gunpoint, you guys. That's so dangerous.
Oh, wow.
The story of the Kevin who brought her dog to the groomer. A client just called for a price of bath and nails. I asked what kind of dog. She says, I don't know what it is now, but when it grows up, it's going to be a black lab. I was dumbfounded, literally. I asked her how old it was. She said 3 months. So I'm thinking maybe 20 pounds max. So I tell her maybe $20, $25. Swear to God, the lady brings in Red, who is a Pomeranian. I said, sorry, but this is a Pomeranian. And she tells me, well, I know it's going to be a black lab because I have papers at home. I pulled up pictures of labs and Poms on the computer, and I still think she believes it's going to be a black lab. What?
So what? She thinks she gets a dog and it's going to grow up to be whatever she wants it to be?
No, she had papers. That told her. So I think someone lied.
They probably saw how stupid she was and was like, haha.
Holy shit. Yeah, it's a black lab. Absolutely. 100%.
They're $200 more if you want the black lab. If you
Yeah,
want the
'cause they're-
Pomeranian,
They're going to
cheaper.
be big. So.
Wow. I feel so smart right now.
No. See, that's why I like these stories. Because, even on your worst day.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's long. The story of the Kevin who has a very odd set of beliefs. I may have married a Kevin. He initially doesn't strike you as a Kevin because he had a very successful career working for a government alphabet agency. However, some of these things he believed. Once this man gets a notion in his head, you cannot remove it with dynamite. If his mother or his teacher, Sister Mary Godzilla, told him something 50 years ago, it could not be changed. Sister MG told him men have one less rib than women. It has to be that way because God took Adam's rib to make Eve. I had to show him side-by-side images of male and female skeletons in a medical encyclopedia and made him count the ribs before he believed that the sister may have been mistaken. She also told him that plate tectonics was only a theory, and since theory means guess, there wasn't any truth to it. You know how South America and Africa look like they would fit together like puzzle pieces? Sister told him that was just a coincidence. God made the world the way it was, and the bits didn't go floating around like ducks on ponds. Theory equals guess also shot down the theory of evolution, the theory of relativity, and a bunch of other science things that didn't agree with the Bible. However, he seems to have come up with a whole bunch of stuff all on his own.
Oh, God.
There can't be a volcano under Yellowstone Park because they wouldn't be dumb enough to put a national park on top of a volcano. Vaginas are just inside-out penises, so a woman who is using a tampon has to remove it to pee.
Oh, my God.
When you burn a candle, only the wick burns. The wax just runs down the side of the candle holder. He had no explanation as to what happens to the wax in the jar of the candle. Meat is not the muscle tissue of animals, but something else called the flesh. He did not explain where the muscles go if the meat is this mysterious flesh. Meat also comes from mammals. Beef is meat and pork is meat, but chicken and turkey are not meat, nor is fish. Cows just spontaneously start giving milk when they reach adulthood. Having a calf every year to start the process has nothing to do with it. On the other hand, hens must have sex with roosters before they can lay eggs. And the last one. The microwave and the toaster often are basically the same appliance. And since you can put plastic things in the microwave, you can put them in the toaster as well. He also did this twice. He only did this twice, though, since I really yelled at him the second time. He does seem to have grasped the no metal in the microwave, though, so I guess this is a plus.
I could not be married to somebody like that.
No.
There is no way.
No, I just don't have the patience for that.
No.
I just don't.
No. Mm-mm.
And my last one. The mom, Kevin, who had a problem with the phones. Dad and I were downstairs in the living room where the landline was kept. The landline rang, and my mom comes barreling down the stairs at top speed. The phone stops ringing. She goes back upstairs. A minute later, same thing. Phone rings. Kevin bolts downstairs. Phone stops. She goes back upstairs, this time audibly annoyed by the mystery caller. After this happens for the third time in 10 minutes, we ask her what the hell is going on. Turns out she was unknowingly calling the landline from her new cell phone. Then upon hearing the phone ring, she was hanging up her cell phone, running downstairs to grab the phone. We haven't been able to figure out why she dialed the landline number in the first place, and she didn't have an answer for that one. Oh my God.
He obviously didn't understand technology.
No. Or how to make a phone call.
Yeah, that's...
What the fuck?
That's like super simple stuff. I don't...
I know. I don't know.
I feel super smart. All right, this week these are 10 bizarre paranormal stories involving famous people. Jackie Gleason claimed that Richard Nixon showed him alien corpses.
Holy shit, do you think that's real? Now that we know that fucking aliens...
Probably.
Oh my gosh.
In 1973, famed veteran comic Jackie Gleason claimed to have had a most unusual and exasperating experience. According to his second wife, Beverly, Gleason told her of a top-secret tour by Richard Nixon where Gleason was shown corpses of extraterrestrials. Gleason, who owned an estate in Florida near the Nixon vacation home, was one of Nixon's golfing partners. They had become close, apparently close enough for Nixon to divulge top secrets to Gleason. Gleason, who had achieved fame from his role in The Honeymooners, was extremely interested in the paranormal and the unexplained. According to Beverly, he was taken to the Homestead Air Force Base where Nixon showed aliens to Gleason. These aliens were described by him as 2 feet long, with large skulls and elongated ears. After he was done, Gleason returned to his wife in a panic. He told his story to her, but made her swear to secrecy because it could possibly damage his reputation. She claimed that he was haggard and noticeably disturbed. They divorced later. Beverly wrote about the incident in an unpublished memoir and had no qualms about recounting it. However, Jackie Gleason was quiet about his paranormal interests and never divulged the UFO story during his lifetime.
Holy shit, I believe that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I do too. So 2 feet long.
Why are they always so small?
I don't know.
That's weird.
Long ears. I've never heard that one before.
Me neither. I've always heard no ears.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I almost wonder if, you know how the stories you hear about, you know, like the Greys or whatever, if that is their suit.
It could be a suit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And like the big eyes aren't really eyes. They're like...
Yeah. Like,
the covers.
Yeah. Interesting.
So we don't really know what they look like.
Sounds like Jackie Gleason knew what they looked like.
I guess. Sylvia Plath received her talent from black magic. Sylvia Plath was a talented but tragic individual who lived most of her life with crushing depression. She wrote some of the 20th century's finest poetry along with her novel, The Bell Jar. In 1963, her life was cut short when she killed herself by sticking her head in a gas oven. She was only 30 years old when this occurred. To many, this would be nothing more than an open and shut case of an intelligent but disturbed individual committing suicide. But according to Al Alvarez, a poetry editor and friend of Plath and her husband, writer Ted Hughes, dark forces were amiss. Alvarez claimed that while Plath was always talented, it took dark rituals by Ted Hughes to unlock her talents. This also caused Plath considerable mental anguish, which ultimately led to her suicide. Plath was a typical, educated, middle-class American who would have had a hard time believing in occultism, but Ted Hughes apparently felt differently, claiming that they had used Ouija boards and read astrology together. Alvarez claims that Hughes hypnotized Plath to aid with the birth of their first child. Using recovered memories, Hughes unlocked Plath's talent for poetry and her inner demons, which ultimately drove her to suicide. As incredible as it sounds, Alvarez's claims may not be far from the truth. A psychological profile that assessed Plath's mental state revealed a long-time interest in the paranormal. Upon entering Hughes' family home for the first time, Plath claimed to have felt feelings of jealousy and forces of witchcraft and black magic. Ted Hughes, a believer in Celtic mythology, wanted to equal William Butler Yeats, another prominent literary figure who was interested in the occult and spiritual prowess. Did I say his name right?
I don't know.
Is it Yeats?
I don't know.
Ultimately, it was most likely not paranormal forces that unlocked Plath's talents or caused her mental anguish, but a lifetime of depression and stress.
That's sad.
That is sad. Winston Churchill was saved by frequent premonitions. Winston Churchill was one of the leading figures of the 20th century. His role in World War II made him an icon in world history, along with his achievements in literature, which eventually merited him a Nobel Prize. Certainly one of the most recognizable men in the world, Churchill was the target of numerous attacks. But on the few occasions when these attacks occurred near him, Churchill somehow managed to dodge them. During the bombing of London, Churchill was having dinner at 10 Downing Street, the official residence of the Prime Minister. Despite the doom outside, Churchill continued to eat. But suddenly he stopped for no apparent reason and went into the kitchen where the servants were working. He proceeded to order them into the bomb shelter in the basement and to put the meal on a hot plate. They did as they were told, and Churchill returned to the dining room. Moments later, a bomb was dropped, which destroyed the kitchen entirely. Another time, Churchill was inspecting anti-aircraft guns before a night attack. After he was finished, he went to his car where his door had already been opened. For whatever reason, he avoided the open door and entered through the opposite door. While the car was going through the streets, a bomb was dropped which would have caused the car to careen over if Churchill had been on his assigned side. But because of his foresight, the car went on safely. Later, when they asked why he had done that, he responded that something within him said stop before entering through the open door. Was it premonitions that saved Churchill on these occasions, or was it just coincidence? Unfortunately, we will never know.
That's very interesting.
That is interesting. Like maybe he had like he could pick up a vibe or something, or gut instinct, or who knows. Keith Moon may have been possessed by demons. Keith Moon was one of the most chaotic and self-destructive musicians of his time. A noted alcoholic, drug user, and all-around hellraiser, Moon partied his way to death in 1978. Why did he allow himself to die from his own debauchery? According to one influential doctor, Moon was possessed by demons that drove him to commit acts of destruction and insanity. In 1976, Moon's hijinks were creating considerable friction between him and the other members of The Who, so they forced him to seek help from Scottish doctor Meg Patterson. She had helped Eric Clapton to quit heroin, so The Who figured if anyone could help Moon, it was Patterson. When Moon met Patterson, they began to discuss his addictions and behavior. According to her, it wasn't medical treatment that he needed, but divine intervention. She feared that Moon had unwittingly become possessed by a demon. According to Moon, the demon was actually two entities, Mr. and Mrs. Singh. They determined that Moon's heavy drug and alcohol abuse had allowed the spirits to invade his soul. He had first invited them in with his drumming, and then they began to take over his personality, creating two different entities. On the one hand, Moon was the same person he had always been, but on the other, he was a drunken, destructive wastrel with a more violent personality and numerous addictions. Ultimately, no help could save Moon as he died in 1978 of drug-related causes. Whether he was possessed or not is an unanswerable question, but we can all agree on one thing. Keith Moon was one of a kind.
Sounds like he was in a rock band in the 70s and was addicted to drugs.
Yes. That's exactly what it was.
It's a type of demon, I guess.
Yeah.
But
not literal.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash believed that God saved him from certain doom. Johnny Cash became one of the most famous country music stars in America and quite possibly the world. Known as the Man in Black, he changed the face of music and became a voice to which everyone could relate. However, Cash fought much adversity to become the icon that he did, and at one time he thought that his life was not worth living. He even claimed that he would be dead if it were not for the hand of God. In 1967, Johnny Cash left his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and drove to a cave he knew of in Chattanooga called Nickajack Cave. For several years, Cash had been abusing drugs and alcohol, causing his career to fall apart. Planning to die in the cave, he crawled inside to its deepest parts. Just as he was about to give up, something happened. I felt something very powerful, a sensation of utter peace, clarity, and sobriety. I couldn't understand it, he later recalled. Soon after, Cash began to receive guidance through the darkness of the cave. Eventually, he managed to not only escape, but to live on for several decades and achieve further success. Later, a dam was built which flooded Nickajack Cave so that it could no longer be accessed. What happened in Nickajack Cave? Although Cash continued to fluctuate between sobriety and addiction, he never changed his story about feeling something seemingly impossible.
Was that something within him or something outside?
Who knows? England's royals have witnessed frequent hauntings. England's royals spend much of their time in century-old homes, so it is only natural that they might witness something unusual. Whether or not you believe in ghosts, many English royals have claimed to have had supernatural experiences. Of course, most would say that it is the result of pure coincidence, but these royals beg to differ. And it's not just recent members. Over several generations, different royals have made fantastic claims. Rainham Hall in Norfolk was home to Lord Charles Townshend, whose wife was Lady Dorothy Walpole Townshend, sister of Sir Robert Walpole, England's first Prime Minister. In 1712, Lady Townshend tragically died. Her spirit, though, remains. She is known as the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall and has spooked many monarchs. George IV, who visited in the early 1800s, was awakened by the Brown Lady during his visit. He was so frightened that he vowed never to return. More recently, Queen Elizabeth II was alleged to have felt a haunting presence when her dogs began to bark madly at what appeared to be nothing. The Queen's apartments in Kensington Palace are another supposed hot spot for spirits. In the nursery that Prince George is currently occupying, several iconic royals have died. In 1694, Queen Mary II died there. In 1760, George II died while staring out the window. In 1821, Charlotte of Brunswick, wife of George IV, also died there. These deaths are only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to royal deaths. Princess Margaret's own secretary witnessed an apparition appear before her, which she described as a woman in Regency dress who appeared and quickly vanished into the walls. In the future, will George claim to have seen ghosts in the room? We can only sit and wait.
I think all buildings in England are haunted.
I know. I think they are too. I mean, it's a lot older than America. So.
Yeah.
Charles Dickens claimed to have the power of mesmerism. Charles Dickens is one of the most famous writers in history, and during his lifetime he seemingly remained skeptical and level-headed. During the Victorian era in which he lived, many were fascinated by spiritualism, which was the alleged practice of summoning the dead. Dickens was a critic of the practice and often confronted it, but another paranormal practice during the era seems to have made an impression on him. Mesmerism, essentially the mind over matter of its day, was the practice of hypnotizing and subsequently healing individuals of ailments. Apparently, Dickens was a huge proponent and practitioner of mesmerism and reached his peak in 1845 when he traveled to Italy and met Augusta de la Rue. She was the wife of a banker who suffered from insomnia, headaches, and other unpleasant conditions. Dickens used this opportunity to experiment with his powers. He kept extensive notes about these experiments, and they showed bizarre exchanges between Dickens and his subject. Sadly, Dickens' notes seem to show that he did all this for his own satisfaction and not for any altruistic purposes. Ultimately, while mesmerism never went anywhere in society, it has become a footnote in pseudoscience.
I was going to say, it kind of sounded like he liked that lady. And
Oh, I bet he was mesmerizing her. Comedian Dan Aykroyd saw UFOs and was visited by men in black. Dan Aykroyd is most famous for his roles in Saturday Night Live, Ghostbusters, and the Blues Brothers. For older readers, the name instantly rings a bell, mainly because of his popular comedy.
Hey!
And he was fucking awesome.
older? Well, rude. We're not old.
We're older.
Mm-mm. You are. Hey! I'm offended. Go on.
Well, I'm offended now.
Well, I think younger readers will know who Dan Aykroyd is too.
Yeah, but come on, we grew up with him.
I know,
That's
but
the point, okay?
I don't like to admit it. Okay, sorry.
Okay, let's change it to more mature readers.
Absolutely.
Are you really mature, though?
No.
Oh, that's what I thought. Anyway, however, he also claimed to have had some bizarre experiences throughout his life. His interests often lay in the paranormal, and after several unexplainable sightings and extensive research, he became a conclusive believer in UFOs and alien visitation. He first became interested in the possibility of UFOs after seeing a 1952 photograph of strange lights above the U.S. Capitol building in Life magazine. Since then, he has been mostly open about his interests and even made a documentary in 2005 called Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs. Beyond studying UFOs, Aykroyd has claimed to have seen them. In an interview with the UFO site openminds.tv, he claimed to have had 4 sightings, including one experience that was quite vivid. While living in upstate New York in the mid-1980s, he said that he woke up in the middle of the night and said to his wife, "They are calling me, I want to go outside." When she asked him who was calling to him, he responded that something was urging him. The next morning, the news was reporting that others in upstate New York, Quebec, and Vermont had claimed to have similar experiences. Aykroyd also said that he had been contacted by the mysterious Men in Black. While on the phone with Britney Spears about her upcoming appearance on Saturday Night Live, he noticed 2 men dressed in black standing by his car. He looked away briefly, and when he looked back, they had vanished. Later, the producers of a UFO program in which he was involved informed him that they had been ordered to cancel the show under mysterious circumstances.
You've heard that before?
Yeah, me too. George Washington doesn't want to leave Mount Vernon. George Washington is the most famous of America's founding fathers, the first president, the general of the Revolutionary Army, and one of the leading figures of his time. He is forever etched into history. Interestingly, his estate, Mount Vernon, remains almost exactly as it was during his lifetime. However, after his death in 1799, he apparently never left. Josiah Quincy III was a prominent Massachusetts politician who served as mayor of Boston, a member of Congress, and president of Harvard University. In 1806, he went to Mount Vernon to meet with Bushrod Washington, George Washington's nephew, who had inherited the estate and later became an associate justice of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Bushrod.
That's what...
Glad that name didn't catch
Yeah,
on.
really.
Sorry.
I think that's why I had such a hard time reading it. I was like, what the fuck? As told by Quincy's son, the story was that Josiah Quincy III was given Washington's own bedroom to sleep in and saw Washington's ghost that night. Strangely, that was all that Quincy said, and he never divulged any other details about what had happened. However, he did give a possible explanation as to why Washington would be unhappy in death. Prior to his ghostly experience, Quincy had been shown Washington's tomb and described it this way. The velvet cover of the coffin was hanging in tatters, it having been brought to this condition by the assaults of relic hunters. He believed that the disrespect shown to Washington had caused his spirit to be put into a state of unrest. James Reese, who had worked at Mount Vernon since 1983 and became executive director of the estate in 1994, corroborated tales of mysterious encounters at the home in a 2002 interview with the Washington Post. Several of our guides swear that they have seen ghostly images in Washington's mansion. On a few occasions, furniture seems to have moved mysteriously in the locked and secured home. We know this because the furniture comes into contact with our electric eye, causing a false security alarm. And this is my last one. This one's Napoleon's Little Red Man of Destiny. The Little Red Man is a popular legend throughout French history. His first appearance was after the construction of Tuileries Palace. I'm sure that's not how you say it.
Something French.
Where he frightened Catherine de Medici by appearing out of and disappearing into the walls.
Ew.
Later in 1610, he appeared to Louis XIV, a child at the time, and informed him of the assassination of Henry... Is that the 9th?
That's the 4th.
4th? Henry IV, that very day. Supposedly, the Little Red Man also appeared to Marie Antoinette's servants on the eve of the French Revolution, and then to Napoleon, who he appeared to as a sort of omen. The Little Red Man appeared to Napoleon at the Battle of the Pyramids, where he was described as a sort of genie. They made a 10-year pact in which he would guide Napoleon to victory if, in return, Napoleon would usher in the Brotherhood of Man. However, if Napoleon failed to do so, the Little Red Man would give Napoleon 3 warnings before abandoning him to his enemies. The Little Red Man also appeared at Napoleon's coronation in 1804, in Moscow in 1812, and at Fontainebleau in 1814. According to some legends, the Little Red Man told Napoleon not to invade Russia. The invasion was a notorious failure, and later warned Napoleon at his final defeat at Waterloo. Of course, there is a possible explanation for the Little Red Man. The famous psychologist Carl Jung was said to have been visited by an apparition called the Philemon during times of great stress. Conversely, it is known that many individuals under similar stress and burden will create apparitions to deal with their issues, and it is possible that Napoleon did this too. Coming from the superstitious culture of Corsica, he may have taken the legend of the Little Red Man to the extreme and saw him while going through the stress of his most burdensome times.
Yeah, that sounds made up.
Yeah. And now I feel stupid again because I can't pronounce words.
Well, they're foreign words to us. Yeah, that was like the genie's like, if you fail, you only get 3 more times. Until yeah, that sounds made up.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Okay, I have some creepy stories.
Yay.
People. I'm a security guard at an office. One night, a worker shows up saying he has to grab something. I check his ID, flip a few lights on for him, and let him in. A few hours later, I realize he's not back. I patrol the building, and he's not in any of the areas I turn the lights on for him. And he's not in any other room. I do a second patrol, and there's still no sign of him. Curious, I go to check the cameras, and I see he isn't on any camera except the one covering the entrance and the security station. He turns down the hallway and never shows up on the next camera. At this point, I log it as an incident and leave after the relief shift shows up. The next day, my boss calls me and says that the worker had been on vacation out of state for days and wouldn't return for several more. It's okay.
Creepy.
That is creepy. Like, what the fuck? That was a doppelganger, right? Because if he was on vacation...
Yeah, it had to be because he wasn't really there.
Weird.
But the guy saw him, so because he's still alive, the other guy.
Yeah. I was at Dad's house. He'd come to the upstairs bathroom to get a shave and heard footsteps in my sister's room. I thought it was him walking around initially, so I got up to find him standing at her closed door. He looks back at me and whispers, "You can hear that too, right?" I nodded, and he opened the door slowly. My sister was asleep and never had been awake, apparently. Dad went in and checked her TV and radio. They were off. After that, we heard footsteps a bunch more times, usually very early in the morning. Some of the footsteps were so heavy they'd shake the ceiling fan in the dining room directly under my sister's bedroom, and they'd woken her up a few times. Additionally, whenever I'd shower at my dad's, I always felt like someone was standing behind me.
Ugh.
Eventually, I got so stressed out that I refused to shower at the house. My dad asked me one day, "Do you ever feel like someone's in the shower with you when you're there?" After months of me feeling that way and never mentioning it to anyone. Ew, so he felt that too.
Yeah, that's
creepy. I wouldn't know what to do if I felt like someone was standing behind me in the shower. That is
I would
awful.
probably start yelling at him.
Yeah, that
I'd be
would
like, "Get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
I'm taking a shower." And then I would feel really stupid for talking to
Well,
nobody.
especially if her dad felt it too. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. When I got fevers as a child, I would always hear a man counting in a very deep voice. He would count from 1 up. As the numbers got larger, the voice got louder and more intense. It started to get less frequent as I grew up, and now I don't experience it anymore. I've brushed it aside as a reoccurring nightmare until only recently I've learned that my sister would experience the exact same thing when she was younger as well.
That's weird.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
I mean, what is the point of that?
I don't know.
I mean, at least he wasn't counting like from a number down. That would be
How ominous.
yeah, that would be very ominous.
10.
Countdown to your death.
It's awful. Okay, I work in a cemetery. One evening, I had stayed late to do some catch-up work. I was taking pictures of some granite samples I have on my phone and had already locked up. I was alone. As I was holding my phone, I heard the doorway in the basement swing open, slam shut, followed by footsteps going down the stairs. I froze. I thought for sure someone had come in. I called out to see if it was someone from maintenance. No reply. I got scared because if it wasn't them, then someone had broken in. I stayed still for a bit and listened, then called out again. Nothing. Finally, I got brave enough to look. No one was there. I peeked down at the basement, and it was empty, and all the doors were still locked. That's so creepy.
That is creepy.
I was about 6, and my older sister was 12, and we shared a room. My mom had decorated our bedside table with an antique phone that didn't work and was not plugged in. My sister and I were asleep, and for some reason we both woke up at the same time and turned to face each other. I remember feeling an extreme feeling of dread. Then the phone rang in between us. Are you fucking serious? No way. Mm-hmm. We locked eyes and both hid under our blankets until it stopped ringing. We both thought it was a dream because we didn't say anything for years about it. Then one day she was talking about it and I realized we had the same experience.
How do they not talk about it?
I don't know. I mean,
the first thing when I woke up, I'd be like, Did you hear the phone ringing?
I would too, yeah. I don't know.
I would not be able to not say something.
Me too. I would say so. I would, like, even to, like, the mom. I'd be like, did you hear that? Because that's fucking creepy.
It's very creepy.
Okay. My dad was in the hospital that was about 40 miles away from me, and he was in no shape to even stay awake. One night I was chatting to a friend on MSN, and he asked about my dad. I turned to my left and saw him sitting in his chair just looking at me. I replied, I think he's okay, just sitting in the room with me. To which my friend said, isn't he in the hospital? I looked again, and nothing. I never mentioned it to anyone, but my dad survived.
Oh. So he just came to visit for a little bit?
Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, 21 years later, I'm having a chat with my dad. He says, something's been on my mind for years, and I can't shake it off. When I was in the hospital, I remember being at home, sitting in my chair, and you were on the computer, and you looked at me. Then I woke up in the hospital, but it felt too real to be a dream. That's when I told him my experience.
He astral projected.
He did. He didn't want to be in that hospital.
No, I don't blame him.
I know. I'd want my chair, too.
Yeah, me too.
One night when I was 6, as I was trying to sleep alone in my room, I remember getting a chilling feeling, and then it suddenly got really warm. I started breathing heavily, opened my eyes, and saw the room was empty. My little nightlight in the corner of the room typically comforts me back to sleep, except as I closed my eyes, I felt a heavy petting on my shoulder. My eyes ripped open, and there was no one in the room. As soon as I laid back down, the petting continued, and I covered my head, just pretending to myself that it was my mom. It took me 12 years to stop sleeping with my head under the covers because of that memory. My mom knew a woman who passed away in that apartment before we moved in, so she always believed that it was that woman trying to comfort me.
Still creepy.
It is creepy. Next one, a package of corn tortillas literally jumped off the shelf and onto the floor once at a large grocery store right in front of me. They did not slide, or did they fall? There was no one else around. I thought it was a sign to make enchiladas or something.
Oh my God.
But it was also frightening.
It was probably someone in the aisle over, and they were like, poked it through.
Probably.
She thought it was a ghost telling her to make enchiladas.
That's funny. About 20 years ago, while living in the first house I owned, I was sitting and watching TV late at night. My youngest son, about 3 or 4 at the time, came out of his room and said, Dad, come see the lady in my room. I said, what? He said, there's an old lady in my room. I was a little freaked out, as I always felt something strange in the house. I went into his room, and there was nothing there. My son said, she's gone now. I asked him where he saw her, and he said, she comes out of the wall. That is creepy.
I don't like that.
Tiny 3 or 4-year-old. Oh, she just comes out of the wall. It's totally normal. When I was 15, I woke up once to the sound of loud breathing behind my bed. I thought, why am I breathing so loud? I held my breath, but I still heard it. I freaked out, ran to my parents' room, and slept on their floor for the rest of the night. The next day, my father was talking to our neighbor, and the neighbor asked my dad if he heard any weird noises the night before. My neighbor explained what he heard. It was weird breathing when he went to the bathroom. He thought it was his wife playing a joke on him, but she was asleep. To this day, we still don't know where the breathing was coming from or what it was.
Ew, someone's living in their walls.
Ew, or they were standing in between their houses breathing.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Oh, I was thinking it was like an apartment or something.
Oh. Ew, that's way creepier. Holy shit. No. And this is my last one. The day my grandma died, I stayed at her house. As I was trying to sleep, I heard a humming coming from the maid's room, but it sounded familiar. When I got up to check, it started growing louder and louder. I found out it wasn't from the maid's room, but it was coming from my grandma's room. It was actually my grandma. She turned to the guest room, and then she was gone. The last time I slept in one bed with my mom when I was 8. On that night, I snuck into her bed and stayed awake until morning. What? Did that make sense to you
No,
at
not
all?
really.
What?
So was the grandma dead?
Yeah, it says the day my grandma died,
Oh, okay.
I stayed at her house. As I was trying to sleep, I heard a humming. Oh, and she did see her grandma. But that last part didn't make any sense.
No, it didn't.
I'll cut that out. And those were mine.
All right. It's time for the Witty Wrap-Up.
Yay, Winnie Rubble!
I'm just doing funny tweets today.
Okay.
My 5-year-old son just asked me how I know his name. I'm not in the mood today.
That's hilarious.
That's cute. I'm going to cut the wall out of the house. And other threats my kid makes that I really want to respond with, go ahead, I want to see you try.
Why don't you say that? I would.
It's PI Day. What's PI Day?
Private investigator?
No.
I don't know.
It's PI Day, and my daughter asked if I take her to school. Oh, maybe Pi. Is Pi Day a thing?
Maybe. Read the whole thing and then we'll discuss.
Okay. It's Pi Day, and my daughter asked if I'd take her to school early for math games, so after school, I'm taking her for a DNA test.
I think it's, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
A 3.14, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I follow this absolutely gorgeous lesbian couple on Instagram, and I was scrolling through their wedding photos. My 5-year-old daughter looked over at my phone and sighed, "Oh, she married a girl. That's such a smart choice."
Fuck yeah. That's hilarious.
See, I mean, she's only 5 and she already knows.
Yeah, it's obvious.
It's sad when our families don't appreciate all the things we moms do for them. For instance, my husband has not once thanked me today for providing him with up-to-the-minute coverage on the Kensington Palace photo conspiracy.
What the fuck?
How can he not appreciate that?
Seriously, rude.
That feeling when your kid steps on the toy they refuse to clean up?
Oh, that's the best.
Mm-hmm. I gotta stop telling my daughter white people crazy, because we was at the park yesterday and she yelled, "Oh my God, it's a white boy by me."
Oh, that's not good.
That's, yeah. My teen is asking for noise-canceling headphones like I'm going to give him the gift of ignoring me better.
That's funny.
I would want them for myself.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, that's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
For me.
Could you imagine the look he would get? My 14-year-old not only told me she didn't like her name, but presented me with a list of alternate names she would have preferred, so good luck expecting parents.
That's funny.
I'm sorry, but owning a pet and being a parent are not the same. Your lizard did not tell you that you suck today. Me, my God, we have never-ending laundry. My son, 8. Well, maybe that wouldn't happen if you all stopped getting me clothes for my birthday. Touché.
Smart.
Yes. Asked my 6-year-old what he was trying to catch because he's pretending to fish, and his answer was sushi.
Well, that's...
My daughter, Mom, you don't need makeup. You're beautiful already. Also, my daughter, are you sure you want to wear that?
Oh my gosh. That's funny. I have one of those.
Yeah. Have kids so they can wake you up at 2 a.m. to inform you that they're bored.
Oh my gosh. I would murder
My
someone.
child knew better
Yeah.
than to do that. Whenever I tweet about my 3-year-old being challenging, there's always someone who is like, my 3-year-old was not challenging at all, and they were sweet and smart and perfect, and it's because I took them outside. And I'm always like, oh, sorry, I keep mine in a box in the basement. Can't relate. Why do you always get to go do the fun things? My son asked as I was leaving for the grocery store.
That's funny.
I married the perfect man, though, because every time the kids have tried to stampede into the living room tonight, he has intercepted them and sent them away. And I just heard him say, "Your mother is watching the Oscars. Let her have her one thing."
Oh, that's nice.
We are not going to have a morning like yesterday, I delusionally say to my kids moments before we have a morning like yesterday, every single day.
Yeah. I remember that shit.
Oh, and that was my last one. That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Send in your stories. We need them. goalsnightoutpodcast@gmail.com. You can rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. And we will talk to you in a couple weeks.
Later.
Bye.